Welcome everyone to another episode of Simple Man Wrestling. I'm your co-host Brian Batisto, as always, with Brady Beeman and Sean O'Rourke. We have a very special guest. This is a man of many talents, of many different careers. He's done a bunch of different things. He's traveled around the world. It is Oren Dramen.
Wow, that is a Bruce Buffer worthy entrance. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, that's just me. That's just how I do it. That's how I do. I do really good intros.
Dude, that is, you have a career in intros then. But I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. I like that we all got some cool backgrounds going on. Brian, your background's probably my favorite at this point.
Yeah, I like this. Go.
Damn, those lips are a little chapped though.
Look at his neck.
Yeah. I'll just leave my face blocking your lips, and then
that's the thickest neck I've seen.
Yeah, the neck's not the same anymore.
What happened to your neck?
Oh, once you stop competing, 2 ACL surgeries later, and the neck goes bye-bye. The neck size is directly correlated to ACL surgeries.
Really?
Yeah.
Science.
Dude, that must have been such a pain to have to go and buy all brand new dress shirts because you were just swimming up in your neck region.
Well, I finally just
the opposite. I bet they finally fit.
Exactly. I finally fit in all my dress. I didn't have to buy the little extender anymore.
Oh man, that's a rough life.
Well, thank you for joining us. This is going to be a fun episode. For those who don't know, Oren wrestled at Cal State Bakersfield, San Diego high school product. But that's where Brian and I were able to meet him, was in college. He had graduated
2013.
2013?
Yeah.
Wow. And then what year you graduated from college?
Cal State Bakersfield. So graduated in 2013. Started working at juvenile hall right after that for 2 years, and that's basically what kept me in Bakersfield. So I did 4 total years in Bakersfield, worked at a juvenile hall. They kind of like poached a lot of us wrestlers once we graduated. Frank Lomas worked there too. And yeah, it was cool, but it kept me kind of up in Bakersfield. I ended up coaching 1 year at Bakersfield North with Brady. He was also a former alumni at Cal State Bakersfield. And yeah, that's kind of what kept me up there and kept me kind of around you guys. I got to meet all you guys. You guys were kind of like the younger crew that had come in, and I had come in when I was a redshirt junior. So I'd already I came in with the top, I think 14th or 15th recruiting class in the country that year. We had a bunch of studs, bunch of top ranked guys. A lot of guys ended up dropping off, but it was really cool coming in because me being an older guy, I got to kind of mend in with the younger, better wrestlers. Where like the older guys, they were part of like that Kerr trained crew. But to me, we were kind of ushering in a new era at that point.
And you were at Palomar Community College before that, correct?
Yeah, 2011 and 2013. I did a redshirt year there, and then 2 years competition, and then that led to Bakersfield from there.
Talk about the community college
you came in. Who were some of the guys that you came in with that CSUB a part of that recruiting?
So, and Sean, I'll get to your question next. There were Fabian Garcia was one of the top guys. He was a 4-time California state placer. AC Brown was a bigger guy. David Meza, state placer, I think he took 3rd. Nick Cano was a multiple-time state placer, state finalist. He was really, really good. Ruben Franklin was 4th at state as a senior, but man, that guy was ranked top 8 in 197s as a senior in college, and that guy improved a ton. Who else did we have? I'm trying to think. Oh, the Bakersfield boys, Bryce Hammond, Coleman. Coleman wasn't there yet. Ian Nickel, Adam Fierro, Timmy Box. So, I mean, that whole crew, they were all pretty highly ranked coming in, especially Bryce. Bryce was the #1 ranked recruit at 160s in the country that year. So that was cool. And then, Sean, what did you ask?
Talk about the transition from community college to D1.
Oh yeah. So community college, I already had the transition. So out of high school, I wasn't very good. Didn't qualify for state. Didn't do anything I wanted to do. I wasn't even sure I wanted to wrestle in college. But Coach Byron Campbell kind of came to one of my high school practices, checked out my plan. I didn't really have a plan. He was like, why don't you just come to the room, check it out? I was like, sure. And I love Byron Campbell. that man, technique wise and just coaching wise in general, is one of my favorite people on earth. Brought me in, loved it, and kind of it was a cool space for me because I wasn't beating state placers, I wasn't beating any of these guys, but then I started coming to the room, Clayton McFarland, Aaron Eberhardt, some like guys who did some like really pretty good stuff in high school. I got to like compete with them and really like kind of like they brought me up. So that first year I'm getting my butt kicked in the room every day. Just like a regular D1, any college room. And then year after that, get a little more dominant, kind of like the room definitely changes a lot. There's still a few people still in there, but more of a leadership role that year, but still kind of training, getting better. And then finally that third year there, I was in a real leadership role. I was really dominant in the room. I remember I lost one match that year in the room. Yeah, I kept track. But it was to a guy, his name was Trevor Gwynn, and just this big buff dude. I think he was from Seattle. And one day he was just walking by the wrestling room, big buff dude with dreads. And Coach Campbell kind of looked at him, talked him up a little bit. He like looked into the room because he was a former wrestler, and then just came in the room. And that year he was the best guy on our team by far. 197 pounds, yacked, completely yacked, dominant, did not work hard at all. But the only guy who could beat me in the room, and then ended up taking second at JC State that year. And that was last year he ever wrestled, I think.
Wait, so literally
but
he's just walking past the room and he just comes in?
Yeah, straight up. Comes in, like checks it out, and Coach Campbell's like, hey man, you should probably come check this out. Like we have a pretty decent team. And he was interested and he came in. It was cool. It was very cool. But
That's the thing you brought up Coach Campbell, because he's pretty good friends with one of our dads that we've had. They have 2 kids on our team, and they work with him kind of separately, not kind of like privates, but they have, you know, all good things to say. And then he'll show up to some tournaments and kind of help him out on the side. And good dude. I you know, he's not really involved with wrestling anymore, but kind of bummed, but he seems like a good dude. I wish, you know, I would have been able to compete for him.
Yeah, there's at some point I think something will get him drawn back in. I mean, the man, like, he's obsessed, he loves it, and his real thing was technique. We had a coach who came into my high school room, coach Daniel Castro, who wrestled for Byron, and he just started showing us all this technique that Byron was doing. And it wasn't anything crazy, but a lot of elbow passes. I think it's a lot of stuff that you learn at Fresno State, because there was a lot of similar stuff that like Jerry Abbas would like teach me too. So I kind of would see like the similarities, and I won't get in like super detailed, but it was something different that I'd never seen, and it had totally changed my wrestling career. I mean, I still use that technique to this day. I still teach it to this day, and he's a wrestling genius, I would say.
I like it. I like
but
it.
I got a little off topic, but I think that helped me transition to the D1 level, because I was wrestling a lot of those top guys. And I feel like once you get into college, state champ or not, it doesn't really matter. We all kind of end up on the same playing field, or we end up on the same playing field, and it's up to you whether you can compete or not. And that's when, I mean, people will start coming in the room. I remember a guy, Vinny Mirage, he was a state champ out of Yucca Valley, came in the room, and I was like, oh shit, like I remember this dude. He was good. And just picked him apart, like piece by piece. And I'd watched that dude 2 years ago win a state title when I wasn't even at the tournament. And so like, to me, I was like, okay, I'm jumping levels. I can do something. And so originally I want to go to Cal Poly. They had a pretty decent team at the time. They had Boris Novachkov. I'm trying to think, Chase Pammy, I think, was already gone by then. Chad Mendez was gone by then, but
Were the Castles there?
Who was there?
Were the Castles there?
Yes.
Older Castle, yes.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. By the time I was at Bakersfield, the Castles were at Cal Poly. And so I felt like that would be a great room for me, but I made the mistake not telling my coach. So he didn't tell their coach. At the time, I think it was Coach Buckley. And so I didn't get flagged as like an athlete. And so my GPA is sitting at like 3.3, 3.4. I'm not getting into Cal Poly Technical Institute, whatever. So I was like, all right, maybe I'll try to go to San Diego State, something like that. And I remember Cal State Bakersfield had just cut their program. And so I didn't think they had a program until I'm checking the California Forum one day, just kind of scrolling, and I see Bryce Hammond commits. And I was like, cool, where's Bryce going? And I didn't know Bryce at the time. I just knew who he was. And so he was going to Cal State Bakersfield. And I was like, why would he go to a team that doesn't have a program? Looked into it, saw they brought their program back. It was self-funded. I was like, cool, let's do this. So I finally talked to my coach. Campbell talked to Mendoza. Mendoza contacted me, brought me up for a quick trip. And at that point, it was it. They were interested enough, and I wasn't getting a scholarship or anything. But to me, I was like, cool, I get to go D1. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't do anything I wanted in high school, and I get to go D1. And then so from there, it was like, let's make this transition. And it was good at first until like I feel like the Reuben Franklins and like Sean Pollocks would like catch up to me. And I was like, damn, okay. But that's what made it real. Like it was really competitive, the most competitive environment I've ever been in.
I like that. I like that story, and I wish more athletes weren't afraid to make that transition. A lot of people are like D1 or bust, and it's not that, right? You may not be a D1 guy coming out of high school, especially if you're a guy who started wrestling in high school. It takes years to develop those high level skills, in just a short amount of time. So there's no shame, and there's no disgrace in going to a JC and then making that transition, giving yourself 2 extra years to train, 3 extra years to train, adjust, grow, get stronger, build on your technique, and then go freaking fight in a D1 room. And I mean, you're the perfect example of how it's doable. And I like that. So I wish more people weren't afraid to do that. I think you see Clackamas doing a great job, producing a lot of Oregon State guys, and some other guys as well. But there's just a couple of JCs like them that are making it known that you can go there and transition to the D1 realm after.
Definitely.
Oren, do you feel like having that junior college opportunity definitely fostered your love for the sport more after high school?
Definitely, because the difference with that junior college, okay, so there's California junior college and then there's the rest of the country. And so California junior college, I'm not gonna compliment it. It was 22 teams when I was there. It's probably around there right now, 20 to 22 teams right now. And they've decided not to compete nationally, and they've decided to stay in their little bubble of 20 some teams. And I think it was great competition. I got to wrestle all these state qualifiers, state placers. I think it was my first match at the state tournament in 2010 was Joe Cisneros, who it was like a big full circle moment for me. So John Sachs and his pictures on techfall.com.
Yeah.
So when I was in 8th grade, freshman year, I saw those pictures of Joe Cisneros, 2004, freshman state champ out of Bakersfield High School. I was like, that's sick. I was like, that's what I want. And so years later, I'm wrestling Joe Cisneros and John Sachs taking pictures for Techfall, and it's on the Techfall website right now. You can see me getting about this close to locking up a cradle on him, which isn't close at all. But it was a fun match, full circle moment for me. But just so and he was at Fresno City. So to me, at the time, there were some really competitive teams. Right now, I would say it's Fresno City and Cerritos and the Sac City, probably 3 top teams right now. But other than that, it's so sparse, and it's such a small qualifying system that, Sean, thank you for bringing up Clackamas, because man, the NJCAA, they have their stuff together. They have some super competitive teams, and out of all the teams, Clackamas is they're a Division I caliber program that if you want to go Division I for sure, go to Clackamas and then transfer out from there, especially if you want to go to Oregon State. And especially their head coach went to Oregon State. Now they got what's his name?
They got Brett Sanchez as their head coach, who was he was a UC Davis guy, then went
GCU.
Program dropped, went GCU. Former coach was Roden, who's now assistant coach over at Oregon State. And honestly, we haven't gotten Brett on here. I'd love to get him on there. He was my high school coach for a couple of years, but he's a guy that he's going to be at Oregon State or a D1 program within years. I mean, that guy's doing great things for the sport. But I wonder, I know this is off topic, but I wonder why, if the California JC coaches would be willing to kind of transition into more of a national realm, or what's forcing them to stay in this bubble, so to say.
I don't know if it's the coaches who want to stay, because I couldn't imagine that. Donnie Garriott from Cerritos, Coach Keesoff from Fresno City, former Cal State Bakersfield national champ. I can't imagine they don't want to compete nationally. I also don't know why they wouldn't be kind of fighting the CCCAA or whatever. My notion is that the organization won't allow it, but I don't really know the details. I just remember when I was wrestling there, Byron was saying how he wished we would compete on a national stage rather than just at the state level, but I don't know. And I don't know why they don't change it. There must
Part
be
of it's a
something.
money thing, isn't it?
Probably money. Yeah.
Probably. That's usually where.
And not only that, but being able to recruit outside of California. I mean, that's something that a lot of these national JCs are able to do. They're able to recruit out of California.
Yeah.
You give
Former
scholarships
CSUB coach Sean Boyle, he's coaching at a JC in Iowa right now, and he was hitting me up. He's like, "Where are your seniors at?" I'm like, "Dude, you're in Iowa, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're a JC in Iowa. You're trying to get these Cali boys out there." It's going to be hard, I think, for a lot of, or maybe some, definitely being able to throw scholarship money out there and trying to get those guys.
Oh, definitely. And especially, I mean, you're paying out of state tuition and you're at a junior college where, like, when I was there, it was $45. It started at $26 a credit, bumped up to $45 a credit. I don't know what it is now. It's probably one something a credit. And for those out of state guys, it's probably double or triple that. Like Dalton Kelly, you should have seen what he was paying or what he was supposed to be paying for Cal State.
He was Colorado, right?
Yeah, he's from Colorado. And I was like, man, this is what he's supposed to pay. But good for him. He was on like some scholarships. And I think he had some other things going on too, which a lot of the guys had. But man, paying that much extra for like a state school like Cal State Bakersfield is wild to me.
I wonder.
Hey, Oren, one of the things that you mentioned, obviously you just talked about Dalton Kelly. Like Dalton Kelly, just coming in. I was never on the team with him. He was for sure a leader in the wrestling room. You yourself, you were a team captain at Rancho as well as Palomar. Maybe speak on that a little bit.
Honestly, I love the teams that I'm on. Like, I feel like most people do, but I feel like for me, it was always, I took like such a sense of pride. Like when my brother and I have a twin brother, his name is Mel. We both wrestled together throughout middle school and high school. And he was always better than me, but we were very dedicated. That was our thing. And so our thing was freshman year, 8th grade year, we're going into the room. We want to be there first ones in the room for these off-season practices. And we want to take out the mats all by ourselves because we want to show the coaches and all the other teammates that like, we're here for them. That was kind of like, that's how we started. And just from there, becoming friends, becoming brothers, and then like eventually like becoming leaders. I feel like I always want to be some sort of leader. And I don't know why. I feel like maybe, I don't know. I don't know. That's actually a really good question. Because especially in like the wrestling world, I'm trying to think why did I even want to be a leader? I think I'm such a fan of the sport. I love it so much. I feel like I have good enough insight on it and I'm interested enough in it that at first that's how it started, just with all the interest. And then eventually with the experience. And then so coach in my high school room or captain of the high school team, which was cool, but it was more of a shared role. And then at Palomar was really, I felt like a real team leader. I was the only one there, or I was the second one there who was there for like full 3 years, but no one else there was as dedicated as I was. No one there was doing what I was doing. I mean, I was like yelling at these freshmen, like treat this like a D1 program. I was like, I don't want to sit here like losing and playing all these games. Like we're wrestling in college. I'm going to morning practice, I'm going to evening practice. Like this is hard. I want to be good. I want you guys to be good. So I think that was, that's what I liked about kind of like being a leader. And it was interesting too. And I went to Bakersfield because I thought I would assume that role with the coaches. And it was the opposite. I felt like I had a really good rapport with the wrestlers, and not that I was the leader at all, but I was like part of the leaders, I felt like, and I was part of an influential group in there. And I just really felt like at the time, and no offense to the coaches, former coaches, but I really feel like I didn't have their respect until I graduated. And I felt like that was an issue for me consistently throughout my career, is not getting kind of the respect of my coaches that I needed, because I didn't need to be yelled at. I needed to be helped. Like I was showing up every day. I was showing up early. I was going to any practice that I could. This is a shout out to all you mean coaches out there. Be supportive of your wrestlers. It's super important. And especially I look back and I don't think that I missed out on anything, but I do feel like if I had a more supportive coach like Byron, I improved the way I did because of how Byron coached me throughout that time. And I feel like that's why I had the improvement that I did. And I forgot at all what we were talking about.
Oren, I don't know if you watched the Grant Leith episode that we did a couple months ago, but he mentioned something, and I keep mentioning it to other coaches that I talk to, other athletes that I talk to. You can't forget as a coach what it was like to be an athlete.
Exactly.
You have to remember what it was, those hard days, those dark days, the days where you didn't want to freaking come back. You have to remember all that, and you have to internalize what your athletes are going through, and remember that you did the same stuff, right? And what can you do to push them to do better than you once did? And I like that a lot. That's something I try to remind myself when I'm watching a kid at the end of practice, and I'm like, dude, this kid's got more in the tank. I know he can, and I'm on him, and I'm on him, and I'm on him, and then I'm still mad at him by the end of practice because I think there was more still left. But I got to remember, like, that was once me, and I was once, hurting and going through that trench, and so you got to kind of sympathize with that, and I think that's important. So it's a good one.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that he said that, because I don't feel like enough coaches emphasize that. You can clearly see that at kids tournaments, middle school tournaments, and then eventually high school and stuff. Like you can tell it's very obvious. And I feel like you guys here on the call, I feel like, Sean, you started saying that, and I was like, oh yeah, all three of these guys coach in a way that I respect and I like. And the fact that you said it's exactly what I've thought. Don't forget that you were just here. And that's what I feel like a lot of coaches forget. And a lot of San Diego coaches forget that, especially. And I just say that because those are the coaches that I've seen the most.
Yeah.
And it's like, we were just doing this. And so you just have to remember just what you were going through, and then like what matters. And that as a coach, you have to think, okay, I need to motivate this person. What's the best way to motivate this person? Yeah. I'm not like, at the end of the day, I'm in their corner, literally and figuratively. And I think a lot of coaches forget that. But I love that Grant Lee says that. I love that man. That guy is a good example. Yeah.
He's solid. So I think part of one of the more excited reasons we are to have you on the podcast is to talk kind of what you did after your wrestling career ended, after your career at Cal State Bakersfield, kind of what you went on to do. You got really into like video production and video coverage, wrestling coverage. You traveled all over the world, like Brian already mentioned, doing wrestling and little flow grappling stuff. So kind of walk us through what happened. I know it was 2016, you get hired by Flowrestling, correct? And move out to Austin, Texas. Tell us, let's go from there and we'll have at it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was like out of high school, that would have been my dream job. Like we were watching Flow. It was Joe Flo and Mark Bader, always on the call, and always watching them, 5 counties, wherever they were at, they were doing their thing, and we loved it. And so 2016 comes around, and I think the year before I had applied to Flow, there was like some application thing that I had put in, never heard back from them again. And then Joe Flo, I met him at the 2015 Worlds that was actually here in Vegas. Me and my buddy drove one night, went to watch Kyle Snyder. He won it the day before, but got to watch Jordan Burroughs win world title that year. Just so cool. But Joe Flo was sitting right behind me, and I was like, I'm not missing this opportunity. Chatted with him a little bit, and then just added him on Facebook. That was it. So like, I didn't even do my due diligence. And he posts up on Facebook one day in 2016. He goes, hey, we're looking for some producers at Flow. Hit me up if you're interested. I'm like, I am interested. And right away he goes, I like your stuff. I'll send it over to our executive producer, and see what he thinks. They put me through the process. I get on a phone call with one of the Floriani brothers, and I'm wondering which one it's going to be. And it was Mark Floriani, the track guy. And I was like, what? I was like, I'm a wrestler. I was like, put me on with the wrestling guy. But still, it was a cool little conversation. He doesn't know a ton about wrestling, but I mean, he runs the company, especially now he runs the full company. But quick conversation with him, find out a few days later that I'm hired, and I lost it. I was like, no, I was telling my friends, like, dude, I'm working for Flowrestling now. So literally head out to Austin in a U-Haul truck with one of my best friends. He comes with me, helps me unload all my stuff, stays with me a couple nights. And then like the day I go work for Flow, he's like, all right, peace, I'm out of here. Go to my first day. And I'm like, let's see what this is like. And they're basically like, all right, like, here's your stuff. Here's like, get going. And this Thursday, you're going to Reno Worlds. I was like, let's do it. They're like, this is your first event. And like, normally we don't send producers out this quickly, but we're going to send you out with another producer, and hopefully you guys can like put it together. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, let's do it. So get to Reno, and the producer I'm with, no wrestling background whatsoever. Love the guy. He was nice. I think he was an East Coast Jew, and I could say that I'm a West Coast Jew. But he was a little, I don't know. He had a little bit of an attitude problem, and no harm, Caleb, you're still a cool guy. But We get to the tournament. It's a roller event. So Jack Roller's running the event. They're Oklahoma people. They're great people. I've worked with them a lot. And they absolutely despise the producer I was with. And I'm telling you, it's my first tournament I'm working. And so I know wrestling. I just don't know this technical stuff. But at least I can like talk with these people. They took pictures of him sleeping during the event. They like, it was bad. But like, I showed myself, they're like, hey, we love you. And they sent like information back to Flo. They're like, we love him. We want him at every one of our tournaments. And I was like, perfect. Like, this is what I need. Second event after that was a nice little pop and flow tournament over in Schenectady, New York. So Frank Popolizio, brother to Pat Popolizio, coach at NC State. He runs these tournaments. And honestly, when I first met him, he was kind of a jerk. But like over time, kind of like learned to love each other a little bit. I mean, it's a wrestling community. What do you expect? So ran those little tournaments. And my favorite thing about running the journeyman tournaments was they weren't easy to run. Frank was always the most difficult. But Yanni was always there. Vito was always there. And Gwiz's mom was always there. So it was cool. I always got to chat with Yanni and Vito. Honestly, like Yanni was one of my favorite kids, like coming out of high school. I was like, I like him because he reminded me of Kyle Dake. He had like the mind that Kyle Dake had, but he was also really good. And so I was like, automatically, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for Vito. Dayton Fix was another one. There was like a slew of guys that I was like, you guys are on my radar as like kids. Worked that tournament. It was super cool. By the way, Gwiz's mom yelled at me because like I went up to her. I was like, hey, do you need help like learning any of these, learning how to do like the table work? She goes, I think I know what I'm doing. I was like, all right. I didn't know who she was at the time. And then someone was like, that's Gwiz's mom. I was like, all right, don't tell Gwiz. Yeah. So that was cool. And then third event, which was my favorite, was Beat the Streets in Times Square, New York. It was it was Team USA versus Team Iran. We woke up at 4 a.m, got the whole production like ready to go. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And at the last second, they like the score wasn't working at like the front table, the mat side table. So I got to sit mat side for those matches. And dude, it was like a dream come true. I was like super stoked.
Yeah.
I was like, how did I get this lucky? But I mean, that was my beginning at Flow. And then it was basically, I mean, I'm on a plane three weeks out of the month and then 1 week out of the month, chilling in Austin, Texas, kind of hanging out.
How do you handle like all that travel?
That's why I'm not at Flow anymore. So it honestly, it was too much for me at a point because I loved working the events, but eventually just it was too much kids wrestling. Obviously there's more kids wrestling than like huge events, but too much kids wrestling events. I was spending so much time doing that. And like my health was struggling just in a sense of like I'm traveling and eating crappy food. You're always on the road. I'm not home very often. The stress kind of builds up. So for me, I was like, you know what? I'd rather be in a position where I'm working just the big events. And that's not something that they were really open to back then. So I was like, listen, I need to move out of here. I need to move back home. I can't do the traveling anymore, but I'll still work events for you. I'll still be like a contractor for you guys. And I left in, I think midway through 2017. And then I worked with them as a freelancer until like 2020, till COVID.
What I have a question. What, like when they send you, say, hey, you're going to Reno Worlds, did they give you instructions like this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to film, you're going to do this, that, or was it just like, all right, go make the best of what you got?
Because they sent me with that Caleb guy, he had the knowledge, he knew what to do at the tournaments. Basically for me, it was just kind of like they kind of prepped me ahead of time, like, hey, this is like the basics of what we do. But to me, it was kind of like, I'm like a visual learner. So the more they're saying, the more I'm like, oh man, what do we got to do? You need a laptop, connect it to this, connect it to that, do this, do that. I was like, oh geez. But then you get on site, we do inventory, and we get all the mats set up, and then we make sure all the streams are live, and then we test the streams and blah, blah, blah. And so like after that, I was like, okay, this makes sense. And the next event, learn it, next event, learn it. And after like, I think 3 or 4 months, I mean, when I get into a job, I'm trying to like be self-sufficient quickly as possible. I'm like, I need to be self-sufficient, especially here with like wrestling tournaments. Like I got to be able to go to these on my own because like, I'm tired of going with like these non-wrestling guys and they make me look bad. And like, I'm trying to get known in the wrestling world too. Like I want Jack Roller to know me. I want when I walk into a tournament, be like, hey, there's Oren or there's the Flow guy. And eventually like it kind of did become that, which was cool. I just wish I didn't get like so burnt out, you know?
What,
Go ahead, Brady.
Just one more question on that. Was that all just running the tournaments or was it like, hey, you're going to go film Yanni's match and you're going to commentate on it and then get his like interview after. Was it anything like that?
So when I got hired, that's what I thought I was doing. I was like, this is sick. And then when I got hired, they were like, you're production and those are the content guys. And I was like, cool. And so I thought I was like, I'm gonna be a content guy. I was like, I know just as much as those guys. Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, it was like a little bit of like, I had to earn their respect a little bit, like CP, Bader. And I mean, Bader and Joe were always so nice, but like some of the other guys there, like CP, when Bracky was there, not always the easiest, you know, they have a little barrier, and rightfully so. They meet a lot of people and you got to prove yourself. But I think quickly enough, I was able to prove myself. I mean, I'm fangirling over like some of these matches. Like one year we went to, it was a journeyman thing, but instead of like the normal journeyman thing, it was like the college duels. And I'm watching like Miles Martin taking on like Zahid Valencia and stuff. And I'm like, dude, this is sick. And so like, I'm like a kid on Christmas running around. And that's the thing with these bigger events is like, I set it up and then it's like, leave me alone. Let me watch these matches. Let me get this in. But there was no content related to it on my end. But that's where I was like, I try to get into the content game. And Mike Mal, bless his soul, at NJCAA's, we get there at Council Bluffs, Iowa. And he goes, hey, you want to commentate the finals with me today? I go, yeah. He goes, do you want to commentate semifinals right now? I go, yeah. He goes, all right, you're going to have to do it by yourself, though. I was like, oh, okay. And I wanted to commentate before that, but like I never gotten the nerve to like ask them. And so it puts me on the mat. And I remember the first match, 125 pounds, semifinals, junior college nationals. I can't remember the names exactly, but it was a triple overtime match. And I was like, bro, what am I doing? I'm just like yelling and screaming and saying whatever I think is right. And I was like, oh man, it probably sounds like messy. And like the table worker next to me goes like, hey man, you sound really good. And I was like, oh, sweet. Like, thanks. Like I needed that. Cause I was like, I'm just doing a terrible job. And from then on, we did the finals that night, had a fun time with Mike on the mic. And then, Mike on the mic. I like that. That should be his new podcast name.
Should be.
Mike on the mic. So after that, it was like, let me commentate as much as I can. And so that's when I think we took over the California State tournament. Thank goodness. Cause then I was like, once we got that, I raised my hand. I go, that's mine. I go, I'm taking that over. I go, I've been wanting us to cover this state tournament since I've been going to it. And I go, it's been on track this whole time and it sucks. And I go, I just want it to be good. And so I took control of it, ran the whole thing, did that 2 years in a row. And it was my favorite thing. Got to commentate the finals. And that's kind of how I got into commentating the state finals, which it's nice now that they still go like, hey, you want to commentate? I'm like, yes, please, please.
Dude, you and Brian are fun commentating.
It was a lot of fun. Brian is a very, very fun, enthusiastic person. He's been in the wrestling community for a long time. So I really appreciate having him with me. And I think you just like him because of his name.
Yeah.
Who reaches out to you for that stuff with the state tournament? Is it Paul Garcia or is it someone else?
No. So, and man, Paul's a great guy. It's Nick Kindred. So he's also connected to like the Temecula stuff. If you've seen him, he's been like an international official. And now he basically just runs basically all the big tournaments in California. Like besides like the stuff up in Gilroy and stuff like that, he runs Doc B, he runs state, Temecula Valley. Yeah. So like the biggest tournaments he's in charge of, and then Brian's like his right-hand man. So I'm like I'll hit them up kind of when it gets close. And I'm like, hey, like, are you guys still using me this year? They go, yep, we'll hit you up for like details and stuff. Then I'm like, perfect, let's do it. And so I'm just glad I have like a little fast track to get in there, but yeah, it's crazy. The streaming right now in California is like Nick's doing such a good job, but it is definitely a little bit all over the place, which is not my favorite.
I just feel like we all know there's a lack of coverage, but I was at Doc B this year and there was like the flow coverage was just felt soft. Like
for sure.
If you compare Doc B and Iron Man, right? Iron Man has almost a commentator on every match from quarterfinals through the end of the tournament. Doc B didn't have a single commentator, I think, until the finals.
Yeah.
So it's just like, where's the disconnect? Is it a lack of West Coast guys? And there's guys that'll do it though. There's guys that'll do it. And there's guys that'll probably do it for free. You know, there's guys that probably would love to go and sit mat side and watch freaking some of the best college or some of the best guys in the nation go at it, and throw down on the mic. I
Definitely.
mean, I just wish we had a better way of connecting people to get that to happen. And I think there's a lack in California and it hurts our state.
I agree. And I think the biggest thing that Flow needs to do is just take a little bit more accountability, because I think Nick Kindred does a good job, but I think he does a good job with what he has. And I think either Flow needs to set a standard, and if that standard can't be met, they should provide the equipment, because they have the equipment. I've used it for years. They have plenty of equipment, and they are trying to like save money and like cut costs. And I know that's what they're doing, but cutting California wrestling coverage is not the answer. And like treating it like the redheaded stepchild isn't the answer. And I'm not saying that's what they did, but I'm saying they just let it be. And like props to Nick and to Brian for like putting on the productions they did, but they didn't know that they shouldn't put just like it was what's it called? It was just like a computer camera for the finals for Doc B.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah, that was hard.
it was hard because listen, I'm paying $150 a year for this subscription, and I know it gets me international stuff, college stuff, but at the end of the day, like anything that you're producing that's like a finals and a big tournament should have some sort of like decent production to it. And for what that was, I mean, you shelled out for the commentary, but you just kind of left a computer camera, and I couldn't even see who the wrestlers were. Now I'm a college coach. I couldn't like travel all the way here to like watch these kids. How am I going to watch these kids now? Especially in the finals of Doc B. I mean, these guys are monsters. Yeah. They're all Americans. They're national champions upcoming. Like all of them in the finals are top notch. And for some reason, I mean, I think it was the same thing with Temecula. They did the same thing. I think it was once I kind of said something and I made them feel bad, and I didn't want to, because I think the pressure should be on Flow. I think, listen, you buy the rights to this, and I understand you can like contract it out, but you're still responsible for the event. We still pay you for the event. And I just don't want to pay for bad product, because trust me, when I was a producer, we heard it. We heard it all the time. If your streams are dropping this and this and that. And I'm going to tell you, like when I was there, me and my coworker LJ were very, very concerned, not concerned, but very motivated to like get better production. We wanted ESPN level production. We wanted eventually for NCAA championships to be like, we don't want to be on ESPN. We want to be on Flow eventually, that's a dream. And so working very hard to get these big productions, and shout out to LJ. LJ is a deaf video producer, former Division I wrestler for University of Wyoming, 2-time national qualifier. Man, this guy is like a genius when it comes to like technology and like productions, and knew nothing about it when he came in, and he taught me everything I basically knew. But as I've seen now is what has progressed, and I'm not trying to throw any shade, but their production value hasn't gotten any better. Their graphics are a little better here and there, but I mean, and granted, everyone makes mistakes. I'm not like, oh, you chose the wrong camera here. Like that happens. That happens on NFL broadcasts and stuff. But the thing is, you still have like the same cameras. You still have like the same, like the cameras aren't colored the same. And so listen, you have 3 different cameras. They need to be colored the same. And so like, that's very unprofessional when you don't do that, because now I can tell the difference. When you switch to this camera, it's yellow. Switch to this camera, it's blue. And so that's, to me, it's like, oh, you didn't check your white balance in all 3 of your cameras before. You didn't do the necessary steps for production. What are you guys doing? And I think they focus on maybe the overall show. I don't know what they focus on, but it doesn't seem to me like it's on the production. And at some point, I think producers need to focus on production.
So I have a question. So it kind of upsets me a little bit when you see a tournament like Iron Man, like Sean mentioned, or Beast of the East, these, East Coast tournaments. And then you go to Doc B, which, depending on who you are, you might think those are in any order the top 3 tournaments in high school season wise. But then you see the production level from the 3 of them, and they're uncomparable. Like Iron Man, like Sean said, is every match commentated. The finals have like the boom thing over the top. They got everything's there. And then you go to Doc B and there's nothing, and there's no match commentary like after the matches. Like, hey, this guy just won Doc B. We're going to interview him, I think one of my favorite things, even when I was growing up, is like Zeb Miller. And I know he's an Ohio guy, but I love watching that guy's stuff. I would like just be like, all right, who won Iron Man? Like, let's go see what he did. Or like he interviews Jason Welch, like when he won Iron Man, like way back in the day. And it's like, where is that in California? We need like whatever it is, more of it, all of it.
Straight up. First of all, shout out Zeb. That guy is one of the coolest guys. I think I met him at the 2017 NCAA championships when I was working it. And I was like, I had always heard his name. And I was like, this is one of the most stand-up guys I've ever met. And one of the most knowledgeable in wrestling that I've ever met. Man, the dude can just go on and on for days and he knows everybody. That guy's great, but dude, you're totally right. And I think it's the West Coast bias or the East Coast bias or the East Midwest bias where that's all they care about. And so when I was at Flow, that's a lot of what they cared about. And like, I was like, listen, like California has good wrestling. I promise you out of high school, like, cause college is different, but out of high school, they have good wrestling and you got to pay attention to it. And I think that was a big like concern of mine when I was there. And I try to push it as much as I can, but it's hard. The Big Ten dominates. And I feel like it's like a trickle down from the Big Ten, like whatever serves the Big Ten, that's what gets all like all the attention.
Yeah. They reign supreme and it's like a monopoly almost.
Definitely. And all you need is like the individuals to kind of like get it out there. I don't think California has like that one individual that's like going out there really like selling California wrestling to the rest of the country, like Zeb Miller would kind of be doing, or like a content guy to just be on the floor. And I think that's kind of Flow was supposed to be doing that. Right. Flow was supposed to be having a guy there who's like interviewing people in the back. Like, I want to hear what the state champions have to say after their matches, because that's huge. And like that used to get recorded. And I think those videos are up on YouTube, and it's not only like nostalgia, but you can compare, you can see, cool, what was wrestling like here? What was wrestling like here? And I think like when I joined wrestling, it was a very interesting time, especially in California wrestling. Bakersfield was on top, hardcore. It was very interesting.
Yeah. It's funny
that that's something we do. I was just going to say, maybe that's something we do as a podcast moving forward. We get those post-state finals interviews just because, we're at all the big tournaments.
For sure.
We got guys in the finals, all the big tournaments.
Yeah.
Might as well, right? If there's a market for it.
Yeah. I'm not against it. I'm not against grabbing, asking a kid, hey, you want to?
We need it.
Words,
Yeah.
We're not above
my
that.
Android's got, it's got 5 cameras on it. It's pretty legit.
Oh,
5 different interviews on that.
Oren, so then you after you leave Flow, you come back to San Diego. You get hired by the San Diego Padres in 2018.
Yeah.
Were you doing production with them? And if so, what was the expertise difference between an MLB program and Flow Wrestling?
It was a world of difference. There was still like a level of like unprofessionalism, which was funny. So like you start like Penn State versus Oklahoma State duel with Flow. Tensions are high. Like we're stressed out. We're going to have a lot of viewers. We have a lot of things we need to get together, graphics and everything. A lot of things need to come together at once. And so it's stressful. And I felt like when I joined the Padres, I was like, listen, I'll have that stress because I'm a small production guy. These guys have been doing it for years. And especially like my main boss, he was doing it for like 28 years. And man, how some of these guys will freak out with like the smallest things. I'm like, bro, you guys do this every day. Not like it was a bad thing. It was an incredible experience. Absolutely incredible. And I'm bummed that I'm not there anymore because now they're so good. And I saw a projection the other day by the MLB that they're supposed to win the World Series this year. So let's go Padres. Let's get that win.
That's
tomorrow.
Yeah, let's go.
Opening day.
But it was super cool. And it was like, I finally got to learn production on like a real level. So that was like a real level production. What does the MLB do? And so it was the in-house production. So it's just stuff that goes on the Jumbotron, but still it was running a full show from our show open all the way to like all the in between the innings, anything with like replays and stuff. And then to like kind of end the game out. And there were about 20 some odd positions that I could have worked. We were just hired for like the day, basically. We're all contractors. And so you get scheduled out. They'll be like, hey, we have a 10-game homestand. Give us your availability. And then they'll schedule us out like that. And so like different people have different skill sets. Like some people are camera guys. I wasn't a camera guy, but like, cool. This group of like 10 guys are camera guys. So they'll like position them on the different cameras or schedule them on the different cameras. My different jobs, I did either highlights where they would, I would edit highlights from another baseball game going on at the same time, and they would show it in the bottom of the eighth, or I would do the scoreboard operation. So I would do like everything scoring, which like they called it balls and strikes. And at first I thought it was just gonna cool balls and strikes. Like I can do that. And it was so much more. It's like you gotta like call the balls and strikes, but then like the ball is in play. This exact play happens. The ball goes from here to here to here, and this happened. And it was like such a learning curve. But that was super cool because that taught me a lot about baseball. I would also do instant replay, which is very stressful because you would either be the guy who gets the first look, who literally every pitch you're rewinding right away. So you kind of like have that like before he pitches it, because if it's going to be like a hit or an out, we got to show it right away, right after the play. And so that was my most stressful position in the set. Like scoreboard was hard, but I could always have the guy next to me like figure it out for me. That was harder because like, cool, I can get the first look, but let's say I'm the next guy, I have to put together packages. So like Manny Machado just hits a home run and there's 2 outs in this inning. One more out, I have to put a package together of his home run. We need 3 different shots of him hitting the home run, the shot of the ball going out, and then 1 shot of him like crossing home, like clapping and doing his celebration. And I need to get that hopefully before this next guy gets out.
So how long do you have to do that?
Dude, 50 seconds.
Yeah, sometimes the whole inning, sometimes I have like 5 seconds and you don't have it. And you're like, where's the replay? I don't have the replay. And then you get in a little bit of trouble.
They yell at you like we're supposed to have the replay. It's like,
Yeah,
bro,
hey, Oren,
like 5
hey,
seconds.
Owen, you gotta stay on it. Yeah, you gotta stay on it.
It's not my fault that Cronenworth swings at the first pitch and freaking grounds out. Like
Exactly.
funny.
Exactly.
freaking coach should have gave him the take time for a pitch, dude. What the heck? Help me out up here.
Dude, that pitch clock won't help the replay operator anymore. And they'll make those
No.
games way quicker.
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
But also social media was like one of my favorites because at first it was like social media and like closed captioning. Out of everything that like the PA announcer was saying, I'd have to like do closed captioning for it, for like the deaf people in the crowd, that there was like an app that they could get. But eventually they got rid of that. They like automated that, and all it was social media. So I was just approving social media posts and watching the game. It was so easy. And then whatever like sport was on TV, if there was a big basketball game or football game, they're gonna put it on in the background and I'm just gonna pay attention to that. So easy. Except when Trevor Hoffman got inducted into the Hall of Fame, they like unveiled his statue. And that day I was on social media and I think we were playing the Dodgers, and I accidentally approved a post that like it looked fine, but someone had wrote in it, "Go Dodgers." And it was up on the big board. And like my producer and my director just looked right back at me and they're like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Oh man.
And dude, that was my biggest like,
How they sneak it past you?
I don't know, because it was like one of those like they had added like the text to it. So for some reason I didn't see a blue "Go Dodgers." Dude, I felt so stupid. And I looked super stupid. And I'm sure Trevor Hoffman didn't see it, but not a good day to make that mistake, but it was pretty fun. I mean, you make mistakes and then you move on. And then the last position there was like color shading. So I'd sit in the back, and this is where I relate it to flow. I sit in the back and I have controls for all the cameras out on the field. And I'm the one who like makes sure the white balance is correct and like the brightness is correct. And like, that's important because they're going to switch cameras, and like the fans have to see that the grass is the same color on each camera.
Yeah, and depending on where the sun is at and what kind of shade with the skyscrapers and all that can change.
And that was the hardest part, where like you're doing like a 640 game, and it's like, dude, the light's going to change like crazy the entire time. That was a cool position because you're kind of sitting in the back and you could just like play around with stuff. But dude, it was like real productions, and it was similar to flow in the sense of like it was tense and it was like kind of difficult, but it was much more professional. I felt like they had all their things ready, their graphics were cool, everything they were coming out with was like super cool and high end. And they started like, that's when they started creating those graphics where like they could have like filters on you just from their camera on you in the crowd, which I thought was so dope.
Oren, like, have you always been into just producing and filming? Because, dude, when we did that stuff in college, like that was so much fun. And
It was
seems
a ton
you
of
had a
fun.
lot of fun doing it too.
Yeah, so I'll tell you how I got into it. Freshman year of high school, do the wrestling season. We have the end of the year banquet, and for some reason, I have no idea why. I was like, man, why don't we have a highlight video? I don't know where I got that idea from. That like end of the year, we're supposed to have a highlight video. So I was like, for some reason, it bothered me. So then the next year, my parents have like some camcorder at home with these Hi8 tapes in. The tapes were size of like a normal tape you put in like your car when you listen to tapes, about that size. My dad had a camcorder like that. I was like, okay, next year I'm going to make a highlight video. So sophomore year, I wasn't varsity or anything. My brother and my best friend were. So basically any tournaments I wasn't going to, I was like, hey, take the camera and make sure you film all the matches. And any tournament I could go to, I filmed all the matches. And then at the end of the year, I just put together like a video and put it to music. I remember I was obsessed with Avenged Sevenfold back then. So literally the entire thing was like Avenged Sevenfold. And it was cool. And I showed it at the end of the year banquet. And from then on, they started expecting it. So I kept doing it. Sophomore, junior year, I get into digital media because I'm like, oh, I'm interested in this stuff. And I start learning it. And I start kind of like learning like the actual stuff. And then I go to Palomar and I take a couple classes and I'm like, okay, like I'm interested in this. But then when I went to Bakersfield, I looked for the major and they didn't have it. And I was like, I'm more concerned with wrestling and getting my degree than like going somewhere that has like something that I'm interested in. I'd rather wrestle Division I. So I was like, I'm just gonna wrestle and I'll do like video stuff on the side. So they started coming out with those video competitions and I was like, cool, I'll own that. I'll take care of it. And so it was super fun. I got to get back into it, produce some stuff, put some stuff together. So much fun. Brian, that Cops video was like one of my favorites. One of my favorites.
Shout out to Sean's car, man.
Dude, my car was the guest star. It was a NCAA compliance video. For those who've never seen it, it's hilarious. Maybe we'll throw
Make
it.
sure to follow all compliance laws.
Yeah, we'll throw a link to it somewhere. But basically, Brian is a NCAA compliance officer, and he's just
we did like a scene
Brady.
from Cops. Yeah, we did like a scene from Cops where he was like arresting someone for some like NCAA compliance stuff. I think it was Sean Nickel, wasn't it?
Yeah, he got like a free Chipotle burrito because he was an athlete. They were like, "Oh, you're a wrestler? Here's a free burrito." And Brian
Chicken
pulls
and
up,
guac, dude.
aviators on.
Dude, that was so good. Very clever. Very clever of us at the time.
I thought the Inception one was the best one though.
Yeah, that was fun.
I don't know. Blow by Kesha was pretty good too, or whatever.
No, I mean that was just a fun one. Who was that? I don't even know who was that guy that was dancing.
What do you mean?
Actually dance.
All of them.
One who was kind of like breakdancing.
Yeah.
That was Tigran. Have you ever heard of Tigran? I don't know if I could say his last name. It was very long. He was from God, where is maybe Ukraine. He wrestled at
Calvary Chapel, right?
Yeah, where Morgan McIntosh wrestled at. So he wrestled at Calvary Chapel. And he was good. And then he came to our team. I think he came to us from Fresno City, but he was good. I don't think he ended up ever like starting for us or anything. I think it was more like he had like personal issues, but the guy could just do random stuff. And he was all of a sudden he started breakdancing on the video. I was like, where did you start doing that at? I was like, what?
I've shown many people that video just because I wasn't there to witness it, but it just cracks me up. It's such a
hell yeah. Send that thing out there if you guys need to look it up. I think they're all CSUB wrestling stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or Dog Productions.
Let's chat about some college stuff going on.
Let's do it.
More recently, the Hodge Trophy. Shout out Mason Paris. There was a lot of competition, a lot of quality guys, but I think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I would say, I know Brady, I spoke to him about it and we were all in on Paris. I think we both voted for him in the fan vote.
Nice.
I don't know, what do you guys got to say about it and your guys' thoughts?
Oren, did you vote?
Yeah.
Did you do the fan vote?
Yeah.
Who'd you vote for?
Can you guys guess who I voted for?
I'm going to guess
Can you just say if it's Paris or not?
You voted for Yanni.
Hell yeah, I voted for Yanni.
Yeah, I knew it.
That's my boy. I would have voted for Dayton Fix if he would have won his last two matches. I love Dayton Fix. I feel like he's one of the best to ever win a title. But I voted for Yanni just because I was like, you know what, you get your fourth title. I'm like, I'm voting for you for the Hodge. I really didn't know where the votes were going to go. He wasn't undefeated, so I was like, it's going to be very tough for him to get it. But I did know, I was like, it was between basically Paris and Starachi, right? They were the only undefeated.
Yeah. No,
Starachi and Brooks, right?
Connor and Alirez both were undefeated as well.
Connor and
Oh yeah,
Alirez.
Lears is undefeated
Brooks
too.
had a loss. Had Brooks
Oh.
not had a loss, there's a good chance he would have got it.
Yeah, dude, they disrespected Brooks, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, I was gonna vote Yanni. I felt like if you don't take any of the year into account, I mean Mason Paris deserves it. I don't see why not. I think he deserved, like, I think Starachi could have deserved it too. I just really think it depends, both undefeated seasons. Just I think Mason Paris had a bigger bonus rate, didn't he?
Yeah,
He had the most
rate.
More
And
matches.
then I feel like he had more bonus at the national tournament too, didn't he?
I believe so, but he led
Probably.
in every category, which I think the most important one was he had the most wins and bonus wins over All Americans, which I think is a big one. Like the next closest person that had touched his number, which I saw on Twitter today, was like Gable Stevenson, and Paris had more than Gable. So, and Gable wrestled a half a season or whatever that year.
Yeah.
So he probably would have had more, but I mean, that just shows Paris was dominant. I think at the heavyweight, he probably gets a little bit less credit than maybe is deserved. Because it is heavyweight, and some of us it gets less love as a heavyweight. It's what it is. No
I mean,
disrespect.
the last 3 Hodge Trophy winners were heavyweights. Well, the last 2.
Yeah.
Gable season 1 twice, but
Yeah. And didn't he split it with Lee?
Split it with Spencer one year, yeah.
yeah.
But no, I mean, Paris he had a great year,
He
dominated.
deserved it.
Starachi had a really great year. I just think that Paris beat him in terms of bonusing more All Americans. I mean, yes,
Okay.
Starachi had the win in the finals, but I think Paris overall had more bonus. I'm gonna look for it real quick on
2 things.
I think what go ahead, Oren.
Sorry, really quick. 2 things that takes Starachi out of it for me. His interview with Shane Sparks on the Big Ten Network, which I didn't even watch. I just saw the comments of what he said. And then his Twitter response to Mason Paris winning the Hodge. I'm sorry. Like, I have so much respect for Carter Starachi. That dude blew up on the scene. And like, I think right now he's going to be kind of fighting to like get his NIL money's worth to like wrestle his last year. Which I think he should. And I think he's incredible, but don't get too big for your britches, bro. Like, you're an NCAA champ. You're a 3-time NCAA champ. There's a lot of 3-time NCAA champs. Like, there's enough of them for you not to be special. And so to me, Carter hasn't done anything special yet to like disrespect Mason Paris like that, which is like, to me, it wasn't even disrespect. It's like, you're trying to get attention, like a negative attention thing. To me, it's whatever. And it worked a little bit, but what dead or alive person do you want to spend time with or like speak to? And you say yourself, like, you're what, 23 years old? Like, that's the only person you want to talk to? Like, obviously it's just a conceited response, trying to be like Conor McGregor. And that's the problem. You're not Conor McGregor. You're Carter Starachi, and you have yet to do anything on like the world stage.
I wonder how that jives with Cale Sanderson and Penn State, because I know when Bubba Jenkins was kind of doing that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know. Obviously none of us are part of the Nittany Lion scene, but you know, maybe things are a little bit different. But if he's acting like that, you know, outside the Twitter sphere, and you know, in the public life, if he's acting like that in the room, I don't know. I mean, obviously you're really good, and there's no one else maybe at that spot.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just don't think probably jives super well. But he's a winner, and he's doing it. So
I
gets away with it.
Like Aaron Brooks. Like, why can't you just be like Aaron Brooks? I love Aaron Brooks. Like, and when he was a freshman, I remember it was the COVID year, I believe, and he was ranked, like, he was barely ranked. And like towards the end of the year, he started like making his climb. And I think the next year, or it might have been the next year, whatever year, and his first year, he won that NCAA title. I knew it from the beginning because like you watch him wrestle, and he was a cadet world champ. And to me, this is what I've done. I worked at Flow, and when I was at Flow, I was like, I'm going to watch all these cadets, and not on purpose, just like they were interesting and fun to watch. And I stuck with the good guys, and the good guys at Dayton Fix, Spencer Lee, Seth Gross was there, Zahid was there, Mark Hall was there. And like, I knew half of these guys already, but some of them I didn't. Gable was there, all these big names. And it's like, cool, you guys are the future. And so it made it so fun, like college and international now, that I'm like, dude, I know, and I've met half you guys. And like, now I know, like, I'm rooting for you because like you're actually a nice person and I don't have to like guess because I root for Curtis Darachi, but now I'm like, do I even want to root for him anymore?
Right.
It's
tough.
like, bro, like you don't got to be like that. I've never liked athletes like that, but and I can't imagine Kale's okay with it because I watched Kale's his 159th match last night. I never watched like the full thing. I haven't seen it recently, but I never watched his interview afterwards. And it was so different than what I expected. Not than what I expected, but it's different than like what his Penn State guys say. Like he wasn't a Bo Nickel. He was just kind of like, he didn't know how he handled the pressure that entire year and basically just like thanked his support system and said he couldn't do without his support system, that he's probably going to start doing freestyle right away or whatever, or like take a week off, take his brother fishing and then go like do freestyle. And I was like, what like a normal, nice interview. And like Kale was like, he didn't know if he could handle the pressure. He said it was a ton of pressure, but just like a real interview. And I was like, that's so like, he's not trying to get any agenda out there. He's just telling people how he feels. And it was after you went undefeated in college. Like that's the time where you lay it down and you say, you come to Iowa State because that's what we do. We win 4 national titles. Like he didn't do any of that. And not saying like I loved him, Bo Nickel did that. I thought that was super cool. But that was also like a positive thing. Yeah. And do you notice how everyone's doing that now in their interviews? Are like, you guys got to come to my school. My school's the best. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's all it's a show. It's a stint, you know.
Yeah.
It's to persuade them over. I found that tweet. It was by Pat Minio. He basically said Paris led in among the following categories: number 1 in winning percentage, total matches, total wins, wins versus All-Americans, bonus wins, and falls. The only thing he didn't win or was like number 1 in category wise, which was bonus percentage, which went to Alirez. But I think that's more because Paris wrestled more matches.
Yeah, but that was it. That was
it's quality competition too, I'd say.
That's really it.
Wow.
So I mean, it's hard not to give it to someone when they have that many. But this year, I mean, it was hard because you have Yanni with a 4-time, and you want to give it to him because it's like you're a 4-timer. I don't think he ever got it either. I think he had a loss in almost every season.
Yeah. He was very similar to Kyle Dake. I think Kyle Dake did have undefeated seasons, but he was very similar.
Kyle's only undefeated season was his last 2 years, I believe.
He lost his sophomore year in the EIWA finals. That was his last loss.
He lost to Vincent, and he lost to
La Valley.
Yeah.
Valley.
Hell yeah. Look at you.
Since we were talking about national titles and recruiting and all that, I thought North Carolina's post was pretty funny after O'Connor won, and Tony Ramos is like, we've had national finalists every year or national champs, this and that. Portal's open, like join.
My DMs are open.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that? What's the portal talk? Have you guys heard anything?
I saw man, why am I blanking on his name? Who's the Rutgers coach?
Who?
Goodell?
Oh yeah.
Where?
Scott Goodell.
Rutgers coach.
Or
it's not Scott Goodell. It's not Roger Goodell. Who am I thinking of?
It's Scott.
Is Scott Goodell? Okay, I almost said Roger Goodell. I'm like, that's not the guy.
No.
I know the whole Iowa thing with the Ferraris and all that stuff. I know AJ Ferrari was working at Bergen Catholic, working out there. I thought like, okay, there's a very good chance he's going to go to Rutgers just because he has that family history at New Jersey, and he's he reps New Jersey almost.
Yeah.
He looks like a character out of Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought it was fitting. And then I saw Roger, dude, Scott Goodell. I almost did it again. Scott Goodell made a tweet. It just said boom, and everyone in the comments is like, who'd you get? Like, who'd you land? Who'd you get? Yep. And people were saying like a heavyweight, like a bigger guy. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything else about it. I haven't checked today, obviously, but I don't know. Maybe it could be a Bernie. Maybe
what's interesting is their heavyweight transferred out.
Mm-hmm.
Is Boone McDermott. He's on the transfer portal, and then the Harvard heavyweight who was the blood rounder.
Yeah.
Slavikowski.
He's in the transfer portal.
California's stud Seth Neville's Penn State heavyweight transfer portal.
I thought he was playing football. I know he was playing football, and I think came back when Greg Kirkland was out.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, I saw him tweet the other day. He's in the portal for wrestling. So
Good for
I mean,
him.
it would be cool to see him come back to the West Coast and tear it up
Yeah.
over here.
He
We're
Um,
forgetting
probably
about
will.
San
Just
Diego
see where
boy.
you're at.
We're forgetting about Bernie.
Bernie's
Listen,
a hot
guys,
commodity.
I am a portal pusher. I fully support the
That sounds
portal.
kind of dirty, Warren.
Does it?
This is a family show.
Portal pusher? All right, I'm a portal pal.
All right.
Me and my portal pals. I am a huge supporter. I think it's opened up the sport. It's made it so that it's like people can go where they want because this is college and we should be able to go where we want. And a guy like Seth Nevels shouldn't have to not start until his senior year because of Craig Kirkfleet, and he's a 4-time California state champ. Like, to me, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it gives guys like Bernie Truax. I was so shocked when he hit the transfer portal, but like they get their degrees and they're like, hey, peace, I'm out of here. I'm going to go wrestle somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I love that because now, cool. What's his face is out at Penn State. They got an opening. People are talking, Bernie Truax going to go to Penn State. I'd be floored. That'd be sick.
I agree.
There's
I
some
mean,
big
Wick almost
openings in
went there.
97s across the country. And even I think Warner leaving Iowa too gives him a spot at Iowa if he wants it. Because they really just need to fill the spot for a year and let some young guy kind of like mature under him. But I also don't even know if Bernie's not going to go heavyweights next year.
They're saying he might go back down to 84s.
Really? I wouldn't doubt that.
There's a lot of talk where Brooks goes 97s and Bernie goes 84s.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I mean, even if he goes over to Iowa, Abe Asada 84s, Bernie smokes him. So
Yeah,
he's
for sure.
hot too.
Bernie's so tough. And man, his like mat IQ is, I think I realized that this year. I was like, okay, this is a big reason why he's winning. Like, he's long and he's sticky, but his mat IQ is like exceptional. The fact that he could beat Mikey Labriola last year. Mikey Labriola was one of the kids that I watched like grow up. And like Mike Mel one day showed this like technique on behind the dirt. It was one of Labriola's, like, some dude elbow passed him and he arm dragged him and got behind him from the elbow pass. And I've never seen anything slicker. I'll show it to you guys when I see it in person. I used to show everyone. I used to be like, hey, have you ever seen this move? I'll go elbow pass me and then I do it. But like, that was so impressive. And then watching him this year, I was like, I need to like break down Bernie. I need to see what he's doing because I never expected this from him. And the dude's a monster, an absolute monster. And he beat the Penn State guy, right?
Dean.
He beat Dean at Nationals, right? In the console quarters.
Yep.
Yeah. And like beginning of the year, no, he'd never touched Dean. And now at the end of the year, I was like, oh, Dean's probably gonna lose this match going into it.
Bernie's
Very
the
I
He's a
think
hammer.
something to consider where these guys, especially after they graduate, where are they going to go? And I think Real Woods is maybe a testament to that. Is where are these guys, for one, going to get the spotlight? Where are they going to get money? Where are they going to get that NIL deal?
Yeah.
I think Penn State and Iowa, I think, Cale Sanderson, he's a savage recruiter. And I think, both these places, I mean, they have a pretty big booster support system that's got deep pockets. So I would say Bernie probably going to go to one of those places. That would be my guess.
I support that.
Yes, Sean O'Rourke.
I just had a freaking click in my head that you're talking about Rutgers and the coach tweeting or whatever. I think I knew who they got.
Who?
Who, Sean?
Shane Griffith. It makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
I hope
I
not.
don't know.
I hope
It
not.
makes sense. He's an East Coast guy.
I wonder if it makes
Yeah.
sense.
He went to Bergen Catholic.
He's a Bergen
Right.
guy, but yeah,
Yeah. I would hate if he went to Rutgers.
he's going somewhere bigger, dude.
Why would
Sorry.
he go there?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm trying to think of who. I've got the list in front of me of who's in the portal. The noteworthy guys, and none of them really make sense for Rutgers, other than Griffith.
So let's use logic here, right? Like, I'm never, I'm not a cheater. I don't do anything like that. But someone wise once told me is like, if you are gonna cheat, right, make sure you cheat up, right? If Shane Griffith is why would he go to Rutgers? Because I feel like that's a step down in education. It's a step down, maybe, it might be closer to home. But dude,
Where
why
does he
don't you
go
try to go to
that's-
a big time program?
Where does he go? That's a step up in education from Stanford at Princeton.
Not
Goes-
education, but competition, attention, spotlight, NIL.
Right. I understand that. After he gets his degree from Stanford, I don't know if there's any other team that he can go to.
A good academic
Academic,
school would be North Carolina, Michigan. What else? I don't know. I don't think you can get into Ivies at that
I
point.
was
though.
just about to ask.
Can't get Ivies.
I was just about that. Yeah, he can't get an Ivies, huh?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I at one point I was wondering Iowa, but they got what's his name there, Kennedy. That
Yeah.
they wouldn't want to bench Kennedy as a junior for no reason.
The other interesting one is Mitchell Messenbrink from Cal Baptist. He's a world champ, or no, world silver medalist.
No,
And
junior world champ, I thought. Didn't he win? Took second.
Oh, wait, is he at right now?
He was 57,
he's going-
65.
Like
yeah, he went
49?
65s a
Okay.
couple matches for Cal Baptist at the beginning of the year, wrestling for Derek Moore. And then right around Reno, there was rumors that he wasn't in the room anymore and he was pretty much out.
He's
So
good to go still. I haven't heard anything about him.
he's in the portal. So I know
I'm thinking
he was,
Wisconsin.
Maybe he got stuck in the portal.
I'm thinking Missouri because his dad coaches with Astronaut and
Oh,
O'Toole's there. So I don't know. I think they got that tight knit, but Wisconsin could definitely be it. I think Missouri or Wisconsin for Messenbrink.
well, big jump from Cal Baptist. Big
So
jump.
Oren, what do you think about portal pushing in high school?
Like for them to transfer in high school.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that today. I was wondering because I was like, if we're gonna talk about portal stuff, I was like, you have to. We talk about it college and cool. It's allowed now in college. They're being treated more like professionals. Do we want to do the same in high school? And I don't know. So I'm not a big guy on putting rules on people. I don't like a lot of rules. I think rules just cause more issues and more problems. And like I remember Mateo Olmos, you were coaching him, right? Or were you on his team?
No, we wrestled in high school for 1 year at the same time, but he came to Mater Day after I was already in college.
Okay. So a guy like that too, he kind of lost a year of eligibility for like transferring. I don't know if that should be the punishment, is you don't get to wrestle your year. I don't think that's what it is. I think you should have to take an extra summer course or something. Like give them an actual punishment that they have to do something that you're like, okay, cool, you have to earn this in some way. But like Brian disagrees.
Well, that's, I mean,
Brian's
so,
gonna get fired up here.
if you miss a year, right, there's no getting out of that. But if
Yeah.
it's something to where we have to take a summer course, well, who's going to give you that summer course? The school? Dude, I mean, listen, like I think we're all aware enough, like wherever you're at, there's always going to be like little shortcuts, little things
For
that you
sure.
don't have to deal with because you're this or because you're an athlete or whatever it is. I think, leave it up to your school district. And for us, they have open enrollment when you're in 8th grade. If you have a reason for transferring other than an athletic reason, usually it gets pushed through if the school has an open enrollment. Also too, like we had a kid that transferred from another school. He missed the first half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's fair. As long as you're not following a coach, I think that's fair. I just don't want to see kind of what we've seen previously is like, well, you live on one side of the state and you're wrestling for another school. That's, on the opposite side of the state. I don't think that's fair.
For sure. Is it like to prevent recruiting, right? Like that's what is that the purpose of it? Or?
A large
recruiting
topic is they call undue influence, which basically has a variety of meanings and it's kind of an umbrella. But like Brian mentioned, coaches moving and an athlete following, like that's technically undue influence, or working with a youth wrestler who doesn't live in your school district and then they want to come there. That's undue influence. It's just an umbrella for CIF to hold over, a lot of the transfers. And
Yeah, if CIF could have as little power as possible, I'm a fan, because no offense to who, I think his name is Tim, the guy who runs all the San Diego stuff.
Yeah.
I remember when he was a wrestling coach. I think he coached at Eastlake back in the day. When I was
Hilltop.
Hilltop. Okay. I remember he was a coach when I was in high school, and then all of a sudden I see him running all these CIF events, and honestly, he runs them all the same. And I wasn't at your Masters this year, but I saw some video, and was it just like it's tournament at points?
It was a disaster.
Dude, the finals, I was like, they're wrestling 6 matches at a time.
Yeah.
It wasn't 6, it was like 4 or 2 or whatever, but
Some pretty upset parents, unfortunately. But yeah, so the reason I bring up the high school portal and stuff, and I'm very similar. I hate to see athletes sit out. I want to see athletes compete. I didn't have to go through that as an athlete, but I feel for some of the people I know who did, and it sucks. I've had athletes that have had to sit out. We had 2 that had to sit out half a season and 1 that had to sit out a full season this past year, and it sucks. But the reason I bring it up is kind of segue into our juice of the week, a new segment that we started a couple episodes ago.
Juice of the week.
Juice of the week.
Juice of the week.
Not Jews of the week, Oren. Just juice.
Oh.
Of the week.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought it was like a specific segment.
Not a hate thing. I know.
I was like, I'm the Jew of the week. Like, this is amazing. I've been waiting to be the Jew of the week. Trust me.
Oren, you are the chosen one.
Yeah, I'm always the only Jew in the group, and for some reason, I never win Jew of the week. So I thought this was my first one.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh man.
Take it
Let's
away,
go to
Sean.
Juice of the week. What do we got?
So it's been confirmed by multiple sources that have spoken to me, but Robert Platt, 195 state champ from Brawley High School, is enrolled at Poway High School currently.
No way. Wow.
He's already wrestling there.
Wow.
Rich get richer.
Wow.
They're pushing,
So
they're pushing for a
this is
state
the-
title.
Dude, this is the thing about Poway. Okay. Trust me, I grew up with Poway. I was in the Slammers when I was younger, and then at RB, they're kicking our butt every time. Like, it's never been close. I have so much respect for them, and there is something where I'm like, I wish RB would just utilize them. We have one of the best teams in the state historically, 5 minutes down the road. Let's wrestle with them every week in the off season. Let's just go in. Hey, can we come and wrestle? The coaches don't really like each other at this point, but I mean, I love both coaches. But man, Coach Myers taking over for Coach Brandstetter. He is just continuing the cycle. And they don't recruit. It's a thing where it's just like parents convince other parents to move to Poway and to get their kids to go to Poway. They follow all the rules. And so
that's how they do it. That's how
Exactly.
big teams recruit.
Exactly.
They use the parents to talk to the other parents.
Exactly. And so the thing is, people are like, oh, Poway's doing this, Poway's doing that. It's like, okay, Poway's doing that, which is allowed. And so is Buchanan, and so is Clovis. And no one's yelling at Jesse Vasquez for going to 4 different schools in 4 different years. Like, sorry, but people do crazy things. It's not my favorite that he did that, because I love that he was like representing Brawley, who's their first state champ. But now he's gonna be a killer going into college. He's gonna go for a 2nd state title then, and he's probably gonna have like the best path towards a college career.
And it puts him in position to help him win a team title next year.
It definitely does.
So I mean, it's not like we want to watch athletes have to sit out by any means, but you're totally right. It's the parents talking and getting onto each other. That's huge. Kids talking to each other. All these kids are friends. Like, I see some of our kids on our team, they post stuff on Instagram, and you got St. John Bosco and all these other school kids commenting, like, they're all friends. And that wasn't a thing when we were in school. Like, we didn't talk to kids from St. John Bosco or Clovis or Buchanan. We were like, F those dudes and their beauty.
We hated everyone. Exactly.
Yeah. You just liked your friends that were on your maybe you had a couple teams from like Fargo or Western Regional dual teams and stuff that you were cool with from across the state, but majority wise, the rest of the team, they could freaking kick rocks. And
I was pretty good friends with a lot of people in my area, but I also only had like 5 kids on my team.
Your
So
area,
like,
right?
I would hang out with. I would make fun of Jacob Thalen because
your area though, not
Van
like
Halen.
not like cross state and cross county. You were like your little section, which is normal.
Yeah, I agree. I was the same, small teams, and I was cool with San Diego, but that was about it,
I get what you're saying. So because these kids are on like, the Cali Gold dual team, or they're going to like Elite 8 or Fargo together, or they make, we're the California group going to Super 32. It's like, well, yeah, it's like they hang out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they hang out. They end up like competing together. It's like they compete, they practice together, and they get to know each other, and they're like brothers. Which like we didn't have that. Like, Sean, you're right. We hated everyone. And like, I'll tell you, like, I remember being at 5 counties, and I was just coaching at the time, but it was when I was still at Palomar, and it was the first time our team had gone to 5 counties. and I'm watching Bryce Hammond in the finals taking on Blake Castle. And I was, it was before I knew Bryce. I just knew he was a one-time state champ at the time. And I was like, it's like, I could beat him. I was like, I could so beat him. I was like, I don't like him. And I didn't like any of the Bakersfield guys. I was like, hated all of them. Ian, Adam, Timmy, especially Timmy. I hated Timmy. And it's so funny joining the team. I love all of them. They're like some of my best friends. They were all in my wedding, basically. And then, yeah, get in the room and wrestle Bryce. And I could not beat him. It was a different story than I thought. Bro, Bryce is and was so good. So good.
He was the first person I wrestled when I got in the room.
I can testify to his goodness.
Oh, you wrestle him in high school?
Like my third college match ever. We go like 0-0 to second period, and me being a dumb freshman choose down, and I get my shoulder just ripped off, and I was just like, that's
I remember
not
like literally pulling hair out of my mouth.
Oh yeah,
just
I'd floss it out
on top.
I'd floss it out like every night after practice because I just got
Him and Coleman, they both had just such hairy bodies, and they're both leg riders and would just try to rip your face off.
Speaking of that inside out ride that they do, Poway's been implementing it. I've been seeing it. They're using it.
It's a great ride.
It's a great ride.
It's a great ride. It's hard. I feel like it's hard to get turns off of unless you're going maybe that weird claw to the shoulder and trying to take.
I call it a spinal lock, little spinal lock.
Well, so for when they're flat, I don't like going over the spine. I like going over the shoulder.
Okay.
I feel like it's the same thing. It's like a power half or anything like else. Like I want to get on.
It hurts.
Yeah.
It's nuts. But
I remember I wrestled. It was my senior year. I wrestled. I think it was Sean Pollock to wrestle Reuben Franklin for the starting spot. Ended up losing to Sean. And then so for the what's it called, like the blue gold duels or whatever, they're like, hey, let's give Bryce a match. Oren and Bryce can wrestle. I was like, cool, I'll wrestle Bryce. It's like, I'll take it to him. He couldn't turn me the entire match. And like, I'm not stalling on bottom. I'm hard to turn, I think, because like my back and certain little things. But I tried to give him a competitive match. He ended up beat me by a lot, majored me for sure, but he couldn't turn me. Next day at practice, he was pissed too. Next day at practice, oh my God, I have never experienced that kind of like top bottom wrestling in my life, in my career. He crushed me the next day and everything hurt. Absolutely everything. And I was like, dude, I was pulling hair out of every orifice in my body that he was crossfit. It was wild.
Well, before we let you go, Oren, obviously we love having you. That was awesome. Wanted to real quick, because I'm just curious, like generally curious. So you got married in 2021 to your wife, Daniela.
Yeah.
She works for the UFC, correct?
No, I wish. Where'd you find that?
I see you guys with like UFC fighters all the time.
Oh, no. So one time she's worked in like the food and beverage industry for like a long time. And she used to work at Venetian, and like one of her best friends was working at Venetian. So we went to like when we first started dating, went to one of the bars at the Venetian and like kind of got us in, whatever, having a good time. But there was Rashad Evans was having his like Hall of Fame party there. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And so like I talked to her, I was like, hey, like, can you get the manager to like hook us up with some of these fighters? Like not hook up with them, but just go like talk to them. And they were like, yeah, sure. And so Francis Ngannou, Kamaru Usman, and then Rashad Evans got pictures of them. And I was like, it was the first time I got like pictures of like UFC fighters. I thought it was so cool. I wish she worked for the UFC. She works actually for a restaurant group in San Diego.
Oh, nice.
They own Death by Tequila, if you've ever heard of it.
I like it.
Encinitas. There's own some dope spots, but she works in restaurants, worked in restaurants for like a long time.
And where are you guys staying now?
We're in Las Vegas. Las Vegas, Nevada.
Are you going to Reno?
Probably not, but US Open is in like a couple weeks, right?
April something, I think.
Yeah, you guys gonna be at that? Because
I thought about competing in that one.
Brian, are you old enough for veterans?
Yeah,
No.
I am. I think if you're born in 1998,
yeah,
I think that's the first bracket or the whatever that thing is.
like
I wouldn't compete in that though.
Do it.
I'm down.
You compete in the real one?
I'd go real one, and if I'm too old or too jacked up to not do that anymore, I'm not competing.
Oh damn, I respect that though.
You don't want to Brian Cobb it up, dude, and just keep out there every year to
You
win
just
a.
go to Athens, get the stop sign, be a world champ.
Hell yeah,
Hey,
that's
get
the
a
goal.
USA Wrestling tattoo.
Dude, I would only do that just to get RTC status for my club.
Oh, there you go.
That would be cool.
You gonna
Well,
start an RTC? Sorry.
how does that work? How do you get an RTC just because you?
I don't know how you start it, but Poway did it, and I think it's one of the best things they could have done for their program.
Yeah,
But I think you need
Definitely
money, maybe.
beneficial.
Well, so there's a club in town. I'm not going to say their name, but they just put RTC at the end of their name. But you could just do that and just call yourself an RTC.
That's dope.
But I want to say you have to apply for RTC status through USA Wrestling. And I think one of the things that you can put on your application is if do you have somebody that placed it's like top 8 or something at the US Open or qualified for like the world or US like Olympic team trials or something like that.
Oh wow.
That's a way you can get, yeah, for any age group. So if you're able to do that, then you can get RTC status.
That is cool. I did not know that.
So that's why I'm saying, guys, like, Sean, Brady, Oren, I don't know where, are you coaching right now?
No, not right now.
Well, if you ever go coach at Gold Rush or something like that, you're trying to make them an RTC.
Let's go.
All
They
right.
got Chase Cammy, so I'm sure they could already do it.
There you go. There you go. They don't need Joran. Sorry.
Well, Oren, you got a baby due in what, a couple weeks?
Yeah, right. Baby due, and then hopefully I can go to the US Open, watch some good wrestling. A couple days later, if you guys are there, hit me up. Let's hang out. Appreciate you guys having me on the show. Very fun. Really glad I finally got on the podcast. Really cool, guys. I really appreciate it.
We'll do
Yeah,
more.
dude, we gotta have you back.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we'll definitely do more, especially with getting more coverage talk going, and maybe we can brainstorm some ideas.
Let's do it.
I like that. And if you need baby advice, don't talk to me or Brian. Hit up Brady, and he'll get you going in the right direction.
I got 10 weeks of advice to give. So
I'll call you in the middle of the night. I was like, what do I do now?
there you go.
Sweet. Well, till next time, I think we'll have another guest on. Hopefully next week. We're gonna try and use spring break to get some East Coasters on what's the time change. So stay tuned. It should be fun.
Hell yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, fellas.